Hello, I've been flying my new plane a little bit lately. This is the Skywalker Falcon. Apparently it's been around for quite a while, but I haven't really been interested in it a whole lot. I kind of thought it looked a bit goofy, to be honest, with this funny canopy there, so that sort of put me off, and I had planes that were a little bit similar, so I just gave it a miss. But recently I noticed that it was quite cheap on Banggood, probably other places too. $44 I think I paid for this, and that's not too bad for what is a pretty nice plane actually. It's not that small either. It's a 1.3 meter wingspan, so it's about the same as the Mini Talon, I think. So I just thought I'd show you a little bit about some of the points about the plane. It's been around for a long time, so I won't go into too much detail. I'll just say what I like about it and what I don't like about it, and then I'll show you some of the maiden footage and some onboard footage after that, and we see how it flew for me. So I like the fact that the servos are on top. That seems to me the most useful place to have them, or the most convenient for landing in long grass and stuff. The spar you'll see is also on the top, which is a little bit unusual. We don't really see that very often in these sort of foam kits, but I thought about that and I actually kind of like that too, because it's not relying quite so much on the glue to hold the spar and the wing together, because when the wing flexes it's going to be getting pressed up like that, so it's getting pressed into the spar more, versus if the spar was on the bottom it's sort of being pulled away from the spar, or at least it would if the glue wasn't holding properly. But I guess that's not really an issue. In all the other planes I have it's never been a problem, but I just thought if you're going to put it on one side or another, it might be a little bit more robust to have it on the top. Typically I guess we don't see that too much because it gets in the way a little bit in there. The elevons came without this little cut in there, and they're completely flat on the top, and I like that because it lets you put a piece of tape across to strengthen it right from the beginning, which is much easier than a lot of the other sort of models like the Wing and the FX61 and that. They have a sort of an indentation on the top and the bottom, so you can't just slap a piece of tape straight across it, but this one you can, which is quite nice. So I did that and strengthened it up. This tail section here with the funny looking motor mount was another thing that I didn't really like too much about this, and I'm actually thinking that I might make this a permanent slope soarer just by cutting here and just chopping the whole thing off, or maybe given that they're so cheap I might just buy another one and make that my slope soarer. But anyway, that just sort of looks a bit goofy. I don't like it too much, but it works alright. And as I said, I didn't like this canopy thing too much, but when I saw it in flight from various angles, like from the side and the top, as it happens I can look down on it when it's flying below me as I'm standing on a hill, so I grew to actually kind of like it, so I don't mind it too much. But I did pretty quickly want to swap it for something else, so I cut out a piece of foam board like that and just glued and sellotaped that in to do some filming. I've glued everything up with Gorilla Glue, which is a little bit slow but holds quite nicely, provided that you sandpaper all the surfaces, of course. It's quite a thin wing if we look from there. Maybe, don't know how well that shows up on camera. I should have taken a photo before I glued it together, because I was quite surprised to see how thin the wings were from top to bottom, so I thought it might be a fairly efficient glider, and it seems to be okay, but it quickly suffers, the glide slope suffers quickly as you weigh it down, as I found out on my second and third flights when I put the camera on. The only thing that it was not too great in the kit as far as building and build quality and stuff goes is that these I've taped over it so you can't really see, but one of these sides is perfectly flush there, and the other side there's a huge bump, mostly covered up by the glue there, so that didn't fit in too well, but the rest of it fitted in alright. And as you can see, I'm lifting the whole plane up here by the end of the wing, because there is another spar in there, and the spar on the top comes to about here, so it's quite nicely strengthened, and even though it's very thin it is nice and strong, so no worries about having the wings break through lack of carbon in the spars and stuff. Here is the ESC, at least you'd possibly put your ESC there normally, but the wires that I had were just a little bit too long, so I put it inside. Probably would be better out here because then it would get cooler, but seems to be okay so far. And the motor I have on here is a Sunny Sky 2208 1100 kV, which is not really ideal, but it was just sitting there and it had these connections on it to be quickly plugged into the ESC, so I just got it running with that. And this is a 7x5 prop, which also is not really ideal. And I'm running this on 3S. On 4S it might be quite good actually, I think, but on 3S it's really weak. It flies just well enough, I think, but full throttle doesn't really feel like full throttle that much. There's a sort of a handhold thing in here, which, to be honest, is it's a nice gesture, but it's not really that good. If there's even a slight breeze, this piece here is not really enough to grab hold of. You can see it's just like my fingertips there, 2 fingertips maybe. So as I found out when the wind was blowing a lot, it's useless. You've got to frisbee launch it by holding the wing. It's more useful actually to use as a marker for where the CG should be. Underneath this hatch has got little magnets there at the front and at the back, so you glue those in, and then you glue little pieces of steel just there and there, and that's supposed to hold it on, but it's really, really useless. You might as well not bother. So what I've done to hold this on is I just put it in place. Thankfully it does sit in there quite nicely, and then I just put a bit of tape at the back and the front and maybe on the sides as well there, and fly like that. So I have to keep putting the tape off and on every time, which is kind of a nuisance. So in here I'm just running a 20 amp ESC and one of those, which I pretty much always use, and I've been using this 3S 2800 battery, which as I make this video right now, I don't know how long it lasts, but it lasts a bloody long time. I'm guessing more than 30 minutes. Probably, yeah, easily more than 30 minutes, I think. But anyway, I'll have to measure the times from my hat cam to get a proper number on that. The inside of this here is a little bit strange. It's sort of made in 3 separate sections, rather than sort of hollowing it out nice and smooth like the C1 Chaser and the Wing Z84 and those kind of planes. The nice thing about this is that each of these sections is flat, so it's quite good to put a flight controller on, or something that needs to, like a gyro stabilizer that needs to be flat with the airframe, so it's kind of handy. But it is a bit tricky when you're trying to put a battery on that's kind of long. You either got to put it like that, or yeah, it's just a bit awkward. But I think the reason that they've done that is because these contours, or these cutaways, follow the contour of the plane underneath, and this whole fuselage section is also very, very thin. At least the bottom part of it there is very thin, so they've done that to just follow along with that contour on the bottom surface, I think. So I think that's about all I had to say. I might also point out that the wingtips are not vertical. They're on looks like about a 60 degree, 30 degree angle there, which is interesting. I think this plane is supposed to be the smaller brother of the Skywalker X8, so it has quite a lot of similar features. I think the Skywalker X8 is a bit like that too. They're not vertical wingtips, so this is a little bit more like the S800, which has wingtips about the same angle, and they're not nice and rounded like the Buffalo and all those other ones are. They're kind of square. So overall, yeah, I really like this plane. It's very, very quiet, at least with the power setup I have. Yeah, so I guess I'll just show you the flight footage then. Just to check the weights, it's 436 or so grams empty, and with this little bit on the large side battery that I was using, it's 656, and then with the Runcam 2 it's just over 700 grams. Okay, it's time for the maiden flight. I'm quite fortunate here to have, well, other than the beautiful scenery of course, there's an actual airstrip here, like a full-sized plane airstrip of sorts. I mean, it's just a flattened off hill top, so it'll be interesting to see how the plane manages to land, because it's going to come up here, refill from a truck here, I presume. So if I'm around when they're doing that, I'll make sure to film some of it for you, because it'll be quite an act of piloting, I imagine. Anyway, so about this, of course I forgot to put some coloured tape on there to distinguish the top and the bottom, so I'll have to be careful just not to lose my orientation. Not too thrilled about the power that I'm getting from this prop. At full throttle it might be right, but anything less than full throttle is a bit gutless. And so that is a 7-inch
prop and a 1100 kV motor on 3S, so probably not ideal. And another thing I'm not too happy about is that just before I noticed that the elevons weren't moving smoothly. Then I turned the radio off and on again, and now it's fine, so I'm a little bit concerned about that. I'm not sure why it was doing that. Anyway, let's throw it, eh? It's probably going to need a bit of up trim. Lots of up trim required. Lots and lots. I'm full back on the stick, but it is flying okay. Power seems alright. This is half throttle. It's nice and quiet. Oh, braking is not on. So I'm almost fully back on the stick, so I'm just going to come in and land so I can trim it properly. Gliding. Yeah, that's alright. Instead of trimming, I thought I might just change the CG a little bit because I had it rather forward than a lot of people have been saying. I think 300mm back from the nose is where they were saying, which is about there, I think. But just now I had it about 3/4 of the way back in this sort of scalloped out bit there. Now I have it right on the back of the scalloped out bit, just about there. Oh, a little forward. Let's see if it makes much difference. Whoa, oh boy. Okay, it's a little bit better. I'm still pulling the stick back a fair bit, but not as bad as it was before. So I think I'll just move the CG forward a little again. It's quite nice. Okay, this is full throttle. Oh man, I love flying planes when there's no wind. Isn't it great? Right, it still needs a bit of trimming. I mean, CG movement perhaps, so let's try another landing, see if we can do it as nicely as that first one. Okay, so I've been inching the CG back a little bit, and now I have it pretty close to where everybody said it should go, which is just a little bit behind that scalloped bit there. So hopefully it'll be alright there, because if I move the CG back any more, this will start to look like a Andrew Newton video, and we don't want that, do we? So hopefully it'll be alright there. And go. Oh, whoa, whoa. Full throttle, I think, may be appropriate for this plane on launching, but there's not much of a handhold there, so maybe frisbee would be a better way to launch it, huh? That hardly changed anything. I'm still pulling almost more than halfway back on the pitch stick here. Looks quite good from the front, like a fighter jet kind of cockpit. Initially I didn't like that, but I think it may be growing on me. Maybe I can just trim it out. No, I can't. I just cannot trim it enough like this, so... Oh, it glides alright, eh? I'm just going to leave the CG where it is, and I used sub-trim to put each of the elevons about that high, so it's the bottom edge of the elevon is actually a little bit above the trailing edge of the wing. Hopefully they'll do. Okay, now it's going up a little bit too much now. That's good, I can easily trim that out. Ah, it's quiet. That's full throttle. I like it. This is with the prop stopped now. Oh, that's pretty good. Nothing wrong with that glide slope. Oh man, a little bit of tweaking and twiddling really works wonders sometimes, doesn't it? Can probably come back and pass in front of us again. Yeah, look at that. Motor back on. Wow, that's pretty good glide. Well, I think I'll just run the battery flat on this, fly it around like nice cruising around about half throttle most of the time, and just measure how much total flight time I got from it, and that'll be the end of the Maiden. There's a hands-off glide. No, not quite. Needs to be pitching back a little bit more than that. There we go. Look at that. A loiter. There's a return to launch loiter with no autopilot. Yep. Oh, that's beautiful. Nice solid circle. Wonder how long I could keep this up for. I haven't touched the transmitter for 3 circles now. I think the circles are slowly getting tighter. Yeah, it's going to have to be corrected in a minute. I don't think I could have set that up better if I tried. It just sort of happened. Well, I was planning to stand here and just let it keep doing this until I needed to rescue it, but it must be upwards of about 15 circles that it's done now, and it's not showing any sign of changing much other than just getting a little bit further away from me, so harder to see, and my hands are getting cold and I'm quite hungry, so I think I will just stop it there. It doesn't look like it's going to be stopping by itself anytime soon. Starting to rain, so let me try this quickly. It's very windy today, but I'm hoping it'll still be able to fly.
Oh my goodness.
Oh boy, this is not flying weather. I'm just gliding here, by the way, so it's doing a fairly decent job. Glide. Maybe this is where the lift is. Yeah, this is good. Oh yeah. Haha. Found it. tried. Okay, I think I'll give up now. So there is a little bit of lift off this hill, but it's hard to stay in it because it's not very wide, it's not very long front to back, so as soon as you go forward a little bit, you're out too far forward. Hands off. Yeah, it'll be a pretty good sloper, I think. Alright, so how the hell am I going to land it? Just like that. Okay. That'll do for today. I'd stay here a bit longer if it wasn't raining. Alright, I took that funny canopy thing off and I put just a plain piece of foam board cut to shape there, held into place with some tape and a little bit of hot glue. Hot glue wasn't really necessary, I think just tape would have been fine. So let's see how it does today with some onboard footage from the Runcam 2. Slight wind today, but none of that blustery, horrible gale we had before. It's a little bit heavy now, it's probably over 700 grams. But according to Daniel from RC Test Flight, that should be fine. Let's try a glide. This is going downwind. A bit wobbly. No, glide slope's definitely not as good as it was before I put the Runcam on. Let's do a flyby. Bit bumpy. The air is understandably quite turbulent around here because there's lots of bumps and hills and everything, so it's a little bit tricky to figure out. Well, there's lift here, right here of course, because there's a slope directly in front of me, but it's not the kind of slope that's going to be any good for slope soaring really. Yeah, so when you're going close to the ground, well I haven't actually tried it too much yet, but going close to the ground is going to be a little bit riskier than it was at the place where I was living before, which is mostly nice and flat. So here, let's do a little bit of low-level flight maybe. But I'm sort of thinking that there'll be sudden bumps and gusts and stuff that might make it a little risky to fly too low. Let's bump the throttle up a bit and see if we can do a flyby. Oh, it seems to be a bit smoother there with the throttle a little higher. Whoa! Did you see that? I just completely lost control. It didn't... Man, that's a bit scary. I thought it was fine. Okay, well we can do a sort of a crash test then. I think it pretty much went nose in directly. See how it's all just dirt on the nose there, but there's not even a dent. It's quite soft ground because it was raining a lot last week, so I guess that wasn't really that much of a crash test, was it? But at least we know this nose is not, you know, made of eggshells. Actually, it did change shape just a little bit, so it's not quite the edges are not meeting as smoothly as they did before. But still, it's no big deal. I'll keep the throttle up a bit more this time, I think. It's about 3/4. Oh, it seems a lot more stable already. Look at that. Let's come back overhead. Oh, look at that. Yeah, it's more stable for sure. That's the roll rate, so I could probably increase that a bit more. I was just about to say it's not very acrobatic, but it could be if I made the settings a bit more so. No stalling. I think it was going to stall again there. At this point I'm just waiting for the battery to run down to start to beep the battery alarm. Starting to wonder if it might not be connected, the battery alarm that is. It's taking forever. Damn! Okay. I'll blame that on the wind. Okay, finally the battery is done. Let's see if we can do a half decent landing. Oh, that was very decent. Yeah, pretty good plane. I really like it so far. Like I said, a lot of those design points are right up my alley. It's pretty cheap, decent wingspan, nice and slippery, etc, etc. Yeah, pretty good value for money, I'd say. So in the future I might put iNav, or no, Arduplane on this, so that I can fly a bit further afield and lower down, do some FPV maybe, and not have to worry about losing signal, because here if you lose signal it's going to be a whole lot harder to find it, and possibly even harder to retrieve it if it's up a tree or something, than it was at the place where I was living before, which was just flat fields, which is actually kind of nice for crashing, made things very easy. Anyway, that's the end of this video. Thanks for watching. See you next time.